Yeah, started the recording for this space tonight. So on tonight we're going to have our guest speaker is Michael Ikua, who is a cybersecurity professional and most probably he is a pen tester, and he has written more articles on CTF and different write-ups on what he has done on the previous CTF challenges. Maybe he has got more insights for the session tonight. So maybe just welcome him on board so that he can introduce himself before I spoil out the taste of the introduction. Michael, welcome on board.
Hello, thank you, Juma.
Hope yeah, thank you. We can hear you.
Okay, just before we go on, I think on your settings you've done the inverse of putting everyone as a presenter. You can confirm if that was intentional.
Yeah, let me check on that.
Okay. All right. Welcome everyone this evening. Hope we'll have a good session in terms of talking about CTFs and looking forward to everyone's questions and discussion. My name is Michael Ikua, as Juma has said. I am a cybersecurity professional, and I am working as a pen tester / auditor in a certain organization here in Kenya. Yeah, so that's my brief intro. I'll dive into things when we start talking about my presentation. Juma?
Confirm that you can able to share your screen.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, should be visible now. Let's confirm if the screen is up.
Yeah, the screen is up and visible.
All right, cool. So am I good to go?
Yeah, the floor is yours.
All right, cool. So I'll be talking about CTFs. So Juma requested me to have this session. So let's kick it away. So my session is about decoding CTFs. This will be our agenda for the night. So I'll have a brief introduction into what CTFs are. And then why should you play a CTF? Different types of CTFs, the categories. Then we'll jump into write-ups. And then thereabout we'll talk about benefits, some tips and tricks, and then we'll close with Q&A. It won't be too long since I don't have anything technical that I'm covering in this session, so feel free to ask questions. Okay, so what is a CTF? A CTF is capture the flag. So in various environments, captured flags means different things, but specifically for cybersecurity, this is an activity where you try to find a string or numbers or a series of letters here, which we call the flag, in a purposely hidden application, website. It could be some files. It also could be a server, and these various applications and websites and servers may have some vulnerabilities in them that you have to overcome to find this specific flag. Sometimes it's not a vulnerability, but just a hidden file or string that you have to discover. So the techniques to find this are different and they vary depending on the challenge you have. Generally, these days, the CTFs are hosted as competitions. So you find I'm sure even this weekend there's a CTF running somewhere. So you find you're put in a competition whereby the discovery of these flags will earn you some points. And then during that competition, you may earn win some prizes. So this is the high level explanation of a CTF, specifically in cybersecurity. So you just have an exercise. Once you do ABCD, then you discover the string or the flag. That's the bare minimum explanation. Okay, so why would you consider playing a CTF? So one is to have hands-on experience of cybersecurity skills. So for example, if you are presented with a web application security CTF, then you have to go through your typical steps for analyzing that web application. So it's not going to be theory. There's not going to be any guesswork. You have to just do the thing for you to succeed in that challenge. The next one is getting exposed to new areas of interest, because the CTFs have a lot of, let's say, interesting categories. So for example, you might land on a CTF that has maybe IoT exploitation that you may not necessarily encounter in a general environment. So this will be an area of new interest. It might spark your curiosity and expose you to various new challenges and technologies. Another one is for fun. So depending on your how you like to spend your free time, it might be a fun thing. The same way people play, let's say, puzzles or do Sudoku. You could also use this as a pastime for fun, just solving challenges, because some of them are usually pretty basic. They just play with your mind a little with the way they are set up, and the way the challenge is also set up and described. So it plays around with your mind, especially when you're like doing something like OSINT, social media, stuff like that. So you can do it for fun. Another one is to win some prizes, because this is now specifically in the context of a competition. If you end up being the best, finding all the flags or making the highest points, you may win some prizes, which has happened to me in various capture the flag competitions in the past. The next one is it presents an opportunity for networking with other professionals and enthusiasts, because when someone says you have to network a lot to bring up your career and so on, these are some of those avenues that you can take when, let's say, you don't have the opportunity to attend events. You can play a CTF. And another one is boosting a resume, since sometimes also I think in the recent past, CTF experience has become a good metric for showing your experience in the industry. If you don't have any real world or company experience, you can show how many CTFs you played and how you succeeded in those various challenges, because some CTF challenges are usually set up to be somewhat real world. Yeah, so those are the whys. There may be others that I may not have captured, but these are the ones that jump out to me as the reasons why you should look into that. So let's look at types of competitions. So we have Jeopardy. So Jeopardy here is the type of CTF that is set up into categories. So your binary exploitation, your web application, your mobile applications, reverse engineering. So that kind of thing where you have a single challenge, allocated points, and a difficulty. So you are given, let's say, one basic web app. It's rated easy, and it has some points attached to it. And then during that competition, you have like 10 categories with maybe 100 challenges. So that's your Jeopardy. And here you're not you're just running against yourself to catch all the points, and then you will be put in a leaderboard. So that's Jeopardy. So leaderboard style challenge competition where you compete for points on these various categories and challenges. Then the other one is boot to root. This one, I think, more or less, it's really a challenge, not a competition, because you rarely find competitions where you have boot to root, but sometimes they usually include it as a category as well. So boot to root is just you. Actually, I have the slides for this. This is one of, just to go back and talk about this challenge competition type. So you can see here, I was talking about you compete for points. It's scheduled around different conferences and events, and you have some platforms you can play through this type of challenges online. So what I recommend is looking at CTF time. It schedules this types of competitions, I think, all through the year. And if you want to participate, just sign up. And if it's open to online, because some of them are really physical, you can try that. Then the other one is HacktheBox, which I believe we may be familiar. Specifically CTF.HacktheBox, not the other platform. So CTF.HacktheBox, I think they did a business CTF, I think 1 month ago. So yeah, they also host a variety of CTF. We have CyberRanges, which hosts some CTFs, and CTFROOM, which is one of our locally created platforms. Boot-to-root, which is what I was talking about. So this one is focused on pen testing. So you're provided with a standalone machine, which is a VM, and you attack that system to gain initial access. Once you get initial access, you still have to find the flag, which in this case, the basic premise of a CTF, find a flag, and then look for a strategy to escalate your privileges. So in this case, you're more or less looking at a VM, either Windows or Linux. I don't know if there are Android ones that have become popular, but I believe there are some Android ones out there, IoT, network, emulated devices as well. So this is the concept. And you can see here now for boot to root, we talk about HacktheBox machines. Hub, which I think has not been updated very much recently. That's why we have Proving Grounds. But I think the Hub resource is still valuable if you're starting out, and Tryhackme. And I'm sure there are also other platforms that are more popular that are coming up as well. Okay, attack and defend. So this is whereby you now have to actively compete with an opponent team. So here you're attacking a rival's infrastructure, and at the same time you're defending your own. So this means that you have to work as a team, where you have a team of defenders and attackers, and you're targeting the rival's system, and then you're supposed to now compete for points. So the ranking here is different. You'll be ranked how quickly you're able to attack the opponent's infrastructure, and also how stable you're able to make your own infrastructure and defend against it. So if there are vulnerabilities that have been introduced, you defend, let's say apply patches, but don't necessarily like block network access. So there are also rules of engagement when you're playing this. It's not very common, unfortunately, but we have two platforms that you can try this out. Tryhackme, King of the Hill. I'm not sure if this is still happening, and then HacktheBox Battlegrounds. Yeah, so it's a red and blue sort of game. Okay, the next type of CTF is a war game. So this one is the progressive type of challenge, where you cannot move to challenge 2 before you progress to challenge 1. So you have to complete challenge 1, get the key or the password, and then move to challenge 2, and so on and so forth. So it's very progressive in your solving. So this one can be sometimes annoying, because you cannot move to the next step if you don't complete step 1 or step 2. So it's progressive. And here are some examples over the wire, under the wire. So every time you solve something, you unlock a new challenge. So if you find maybe step 2 is a very hard challenge that you're not familiar with, then you're stuck, you cannot move forward. And that's pretty much it. So next type of competition is now the CyberRanges type. And this one is more related to, let's say, red teaming and also certifications. So you are put in a big environment that has a near realistic setup of a real organization, and then you try to solve some challenges that are attached. So here the most common is a red team challenge, or you're given or even pen testing challenge. You're given a network-based environment. You perform penetration testing. Similar also happens for blue team. You're given a network environment that some attacks have been engaged, and then you try to defend. So this is a CyberRange type of CTF. So this one is more real world, so it gives you good experience in terms of how enterprise might look like. Some technologies also involved are very interesting. And the platforms here are HacktheBox. Yeah, so HacktheBox has covered quite a lot in this space. Tryhackme, CyberRanges, and now certifications. So say for example, you're taking certifications like OSCP, you'll encounter CyberRange. If you do certifications from Altered Security like CRTO, you get CRTP. You get a CyberRange as well, which is a variety of systems. And also on the blue team side as well. So I think if you do something like Let's Defend or also CyberRanges, blue team challenges, you are going to be provided via a CyberRange environment. Just check if there are any questions as we move forward. Okay, nothing yet. All right, so let's keep going. So these are the categories, and these categories can either be blue team or red team. So for example, web application security, you might be told to detect, let's say, an attack, or also defend the web application by applying various hardening, let's say, hardening configurations. So any of this can apply to both. So, but for forensics, I think it's more or less blue team. But the others, they'll cut across both sides. OSINT can be red team, blue team. Web app, mobile apps, reverse engineering, red team, blue team. Exploitation, one is more or less red team. Yeah, so those are the main categories. Miscellaneous, now we have those ones that are very, not really real world applicable, but they're just fun. So for example, when you're given like a Morse code to decode, I mean, it's, I think in this day and age, we're using Morse code, but yeah, that's why it's miscellaneous. Fun to do. You learn about some random stuff that you may not have come across in the real world, but it's good to know. There's some odd programming languages that are used that may not be used in the real world, but they're just used for fun and games. Yeah, so the categories. So I'll pause there before we get into write-ups. Any question, comment, anything that may not be clear about capture the flags that you are curious about?
I have a question. My name is Dennis. Yep. I'm audible?
Yes, go on.
Yeah. So now I say I am not very good at coding, and I want to actually try my hand at this.
Juma, there's someone who's on. Sorry, Dennis. Juma, just kindly mute. I don't know who that is, but they have background noise. It's this guy who has the camera on. Peter, kindly mute yourself. Okay. Go on, Dennis.
So I was saying, say I don't have a good background with coding. So I've never even done any other programming apart from Hello World, and I'm interested in in progressing in this area of CTFs. Is there maybe a particular CTF you can direct me to actually check that would allow me to maybe use the kidogo knowledge I have on cybersecurity to actually attempt my skills?
Yeah. So there are CTFs actually that cover every level that you might be in. So one of the ones that I actually started with as well when I was in, let's say, a similar level as you, was the war games. So the war games over the wire, there are some very simple ones that can give you the confidence to begin, and they'll also teach you a few things here and there. So I would recommend you can start with the war games over the wire. And also on CTF time, there are some CTFs that have junior or entry level categories. And also one popular one is PicoCTF. I don't know if you've heard of PicoCTF, which is a CTF targeted towards high school students. So that one
That
gives
is
you
Pico,
Pico.
P-I-C-O.
Yes, PICO
Okay.
CTF. It's a CTF that is targeted towards high school students. So if you're, so that means it doesn't have any prerequisite information. You just start. It has they go to from the very basic of networking. So like, do you know how to use Wireshark? Can you use do basic, let's say, file manipulation on Linux? You know, they'll give you a small, let's say, Linux VM and ask you to look for the flag in the server, which is a similar concept with the war game. So yeah, those two I can recommend to start with. And also, I haven't seen this recently, but also in the past, there were some CTFs that required you to do programming. So like you're given a challenge to connect to a server and do some, let's say, write a calculator to answer the questions. So there are some CTFs like that that will also utilize some programming knowledge, which is now your luck in terms of finding them. So it can be hit or miss. Some CTFs are very technical and very targeted and focused, and some are open. They'll give you those easy wins. I think a good CTF that is usually accommodating is, I think, Nahamcon CTF. I don't know if this year has already been completed, but yeah, that one is usually also well accommodating. And also any CTF, let's say with like John Hammond being the organizer of the CTF, will put in some good easy challenges for all the levels. Hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you.
Maybe just to add on that, at InfoSec 365, we're also trying to build this monthly CTF for you guys so that you can learn together, because they're curated by different guys who you meet on the street there. So check out. We will be sharing the link of the CTF very soon. You are supposed to have it end of this month, but due to some avoidable circumstances, yeah, we reschedule it for this month. So just check out. We'll be doing that very soon. Back to you, Michael.
Okay. Yeah, and CTFs, I would say the main concept behind it is just learning, first of all. So you approach it from an open mind, go through what challenges that have been presented, and try your best to just to not, let's say, get discouraged with the challenge that is maybe too difficult. So that's why sometimes playing as a group can help, because someone might have the intuition of telling you that this is not going to be an easy challenge, discard it. Let me also speak about the downsides of CTF. So Sometimes CTFs are designed with the author's, let's say, point of view. So, Brian, let me finish and I'll come back to you. So sometimes the CTF challenges are designed with the CTF author's point of view, and sometimes point of views are usually biased, and you might find that that end result of that CTF challenge will not end up not teaching you something of importance, because some CTF challenges or authors are cynical and they want you to struggle. They want you to be able to find that one specific, let's say, tiny piece of knowledge that only them possess. And if you're not able to discover it, then you're never going to solve that challenge, because the way it was being solved was not methodical or was not repeatable in other places. So that's one downside of CTFs, which you might, if you play a CTF and you play them for very long, you'll encounter this where someone sets up a challenge, it's only meant to be solved one way, and the way themselves think is supposed to be the right way. And because of that kind of thing, and maybe that CTF was not reviewed by other people, once you play it, you find you've wasted 8 hours only to realize maybe the CTF author did not consider that maybe you might put spaces in your flag, you might put small letters in your flag, this kind of things that only the CTF author might think is common knowledge, but is not, or is not logical only for them. Yeah, so over time you realize that you learn how to cut off the challenge, let's say, time. So if you dip into a challenge, maybe 5 hours, you know how to cut your losses and move on and wait for the end result of the solution, which is now what we'll talk about in the write-ups section. Yes, Brian, go on. So you have a hand up.
Hi. Yeah.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
It's very faint, but just go on.
Okay. All right. My question, actually, I had a couple of questions.
Yes, go on.
First of all, is a capture the flag competitions, do they have time limits? I think you pretty much answered that in your last comments. I think you said something like 5 hours or something like that. But do they have time limits? And from your experience, like how many questions can they give in a capture the flag competition? And then the other one, I think, was what basic skills that you need to have. And I think you answered that when you were answering the previous person who was asking the question. I have a couple of more questions, but let me just stop at that for you to answer.
Okay. So for the time-based, that one it depends on the situation. So let's say, for example, if you are in a specific competition. So let's say you have joined, let's say, besides Nairobi or IFOSEC 365 CTF competition, they may run it for a weekend. So let's say they start it on Friday evening and the competition ends on Sunday evening. So you're given, like, let's say 48 hours, which is the typical CTFs that you'll encounter. So yes, they are time limited. But as you've seen from my different CTF competitions, there are some that are not time limited. So for example, something like a boot to root sort of challenges. Let me go to that slide. Here we go. So like these ones are generally not time limited, because if you look at now HacktheBox type of machines, these ones are, you can access them at any time, and your let's say points will be taken into account, even though their model is also a bit different, where the machine, I think, lasts, I don't know if it's a month or 2 months before the points that you gain from it are no longer valid. For Tryhackme rooms, I know you can gain their points whenever you do them. There's no time limit, so you might play a CTF that was launched maybe 2 years ago and still get some points. So it also depends on the way the platform you're going for. But for the general Jeopardy type CTF, these ones are time limited a lot of the times. So you might find 48 hours, 24 hours, 1 week, that kind of thing. I don't think I've seen a CTF that goes for a month. I've seen 1 week maximum, down, all the way down to 8 hours. The other question you had was, I think, basic skills. So basic skills are around, so here, since we're talking about cybersecurity, we'll talk about things related to cyber. So cyberspace would be networks, would be your web applications, would be any, let's say, any infrastructure that could be in the cyberspace. So web applications, servers, IoT, network devices, networking. Those will be the general skill, and also now programming, because for you to have things like web applications, you need some programming as well. So yeah, those will be the basics. So some knowledge of networking, fundamentals, some knowledge of systems. In this case, when I say systems, I mean operating systems. So do you understand Linux, Windows? And then on networking, now how do you understand the network packets? If I give you a TCP, what do you call it? TCP capture. Would you be able to dissect it in something like Wireshark and tell me what IP addresses do you see? What protocols do you see? Those kind of things. And then programming helps with situations where you have the challenge has been broken down into a lot of activities, so you need to automate. So for example, if it's some challenges, like let's say you're extracting a file from, let's say, a pickup capture, and the pickup capture is like 1 GB, and then you need to break it down into small chunks. So instead of doing that one by one, you can just automate it using programming knowledge. So those would be the basic stuff, and also protocols. So protocols is FTP, HTTP, which is now the web apps, and SSH. Just high-level networking protocols and application protocols. If you see some files, this is an email. This is how an email should look like, and so on. I don't know if there's another question that I missed. I think you had those. I think you had 3. I think I covered them. I hope. Just confirm.
Maybe just to add on. Just like as you said, most of them that are the Jeopardy do have a time limit. I could give an example like a CTF that I do participated yesterday. That is from CyberTalents. It ran away from around 6 hours with a total of 10 different CTF challenges with different points on depending on the level that they're being set on the CTF. Yeah, back to you.
Yeah. Okay. Another question? Okay. So let's progress to now CTF writing. Okay, so CTF write-up. So what the concept behind a CTF write-up? So this is basically a walkthrough of the steps taken to find the flag in that CTF challenge or exercise that you undertook. So when you are playing the challenge, you usually come from a point of zero knowledge, and then if you, let's say, spend 5 hours solving that challenge because you did a lot of research, you put a lot of work on breaking down the concepts of the challenge, and then eventually you solve it. So when you're doing your walkthrough, you basically summarize all that into a walkthrough explaining what you discover. Let's put the example of, let's say, a network capture sort of CTF challenge. You're told maybe you've been given a question. So the user was seen visiting a malicious website. What is the website? Then you're given a packet capture, because in cybersecurity, traffic is typically captured in organizations, because if you need to secure something, you need to see what's going on, and then you're given this network capture. Then you're told find this domain or this. So the flag is where this specific user was visiting the website. And then now you're going to start off with I opened Wireshark, I did this and that. So that's summarizing the whole process, and of course minusing any useless information, that any rabbit hole, because sometimes when you're doing a CTF challenge, you might go in directions that are not intended. So for example, in this case, if you are given that packet capture and find 10 domains, so if you go through each and every one of them, that's what we call now the rabbit holes or the paths. And then in your summary, you're not going to talk about every single the thing that you did for every single one. You will only focus on the one that was correct. You're just going to say, I spent 5 hours, I went through all these 10, 50 domains, but in the summary of the walkthrough, you only focus on the specific section that was correct. So that's one concept of the write-up. So it's just a summary walkthrough of steps taken to find the flag. And now this could be any sort of steps. Could be even how do you might be even the solution of a basic Google search, that sort of thing. And then write-ups, they either can be private or public, because in some instances, so for example, like when you're doing a certification, like the OCP certification, those lab challenges, you make your own write-ups, and those ones will be private. You're not going to publish them. But for this other sort of Jeopardy CTFs, you're free to publish the solutions. So what are the benefits of writing the CTF write-up? So one thing is, especially also for me, very keen on this one, is I'm writing notes for my future self, because as you progress in life, some things you forget, and there's no need of you spending 6-7 hours on a certain challenge. You solve it, but 2 weeks down the line, you don't remember how you went about it. And of course, forgetting is in human nature. So what's the next best thing? Just document, write those steps down, and then your future self will thank you later, because once you have documented everything, you don't have to always struggle remembering. You just reference your notes, and you can easily pick up what you did. Next thing is practicing documentation skills, simply because at some point you want to when you go to read your work, you want it to be understandable. And if you cannot understand your past self, then you need to improve on your documentation. If I write some high-level notes, if it's private and my mind knows how to read those notes, then it's good. But if it's public, you want to release them in a way that your future self will understand them, and also someone else will also understand them, because otherwise there will be no point of publishing them if you're not going to make them digestible by other people. So this will allow you to practice documentation skills, which is now English, good sentence composition, and so on. So you go back to your English skills that you learned in high school and primary. The next thing is it forces you to understand CTF solution in depth. This one I've put here because sometimes you might solve a CTF miraculously or by accident. So for example, let's say you are fuzzing something. Let's say you're just throwing random characters at a web application, and the web application crashes in a weird way that gives you the flag. So now when someone asks you what exactly was the solution, you cannot just tell them I drew random characters. You have to be very well, it depends on the person, but for me, like giving a concrete explanation. And the reason why this is the case is because once you get also into the cybersecurity industry, when you're dealing with people and you need to explain some things, you cannot just give them high level or shallow explanations. You have to go into the root of the matter and explain something that is called a root cause analysis. So this also plays a part in building your skill towards this, because if you're supposed to provide a root cause analysis of something in the real world, if you have not practiced, then you might end up not giving a very good output in your root cause analysis documentation. So if you've already practiced the art of going in depth into an issue and getting the solution, and you're absolutely without any doubt, anyone who comes into that situation, you can always present them with facts, and no one is going to argue with those facts, and then you are able to successfully do your job. So this is also one of those aspects, because the beauty thing about CTFs is those things that you practice end up being transferable to the real world. So if you practice good documentation, practice how to go in depth, finding the root cause of the situation, such that if, let's say, assuming it was a real world application, let's put it in the case of a pen tester, you're going to have to explain what caused the vulnerability. Sometimes it may not be as deep as you know the code, but you can have a high level explanation saying the web application did not protect, let's say, users' information. It was accessible via unauthenticated access. And how does that look like? It means there is no cookies, there is no password, there is no username involved. Just going to the web app and accessing that information. Simple as that. So the CTF solution can be as basic and can be as in-depth. There are those levels. Then the next one is improve the understanding of the topic area. So when you're playing CTFs, there are many categories, as I mentioned earlier. So you might find that over time, when you're doing documentation, you might realize I actually enjoy doing network pen testing, or I enjoy mobile application more, simply because when you force yourself to do the documentation and the write-up, you end up realizing focusing on mobile application is more enjoyable. Going through the whole process of discovery to exploitation to solution is more enjoyable, simply because you decided to do the write-up. But if you don't do the write-up, you don't go through the whole process a second time or a third time, because when you're doing the write-ups, sometimes you go through the solution steps multiple times, so that you are very sure that these were the actual steps and not just guessing. So this will also be another side effect and the benefit of doing the write-up. You discover what you enjoy more, and also now you can focus on that topic area and become better. That's why you hear some of these CTF players only do, let's say, binary exploitation. Like some guys I was working with a while back. I don't know, I saw actually in the session, I think he's part of those guys who only focus on a specific area of CTF. So if it's a mobile app, that's the only thing they'll target in that CTF. So if they go into a CTF and there's no mobile app, that CTF is not beneficial to them. So you end up now also focusing your career. If you're a blue teamer, then you know if there's no blue team CTF, that's not for you. And so on. Forensics, find guys always focusing on forensics, and this is now also where your career progression comes into play. The next one is the write-up can be used as a form of evidence that you have certain skills. So if you document how you've done mobile application, you've done the root cause analysis, that is a very straightforward evidence of you possessing the skills and the knowledge of the specific area. So if these guys are looking for someone who can apply mobile application pen testing skills, you have a very straightforward record that you can show them. And if they grill you on the topic, since you have improved your understanding of the topic, you know all the intricacies, because a CTF will expose you to the various concepts. If it's something to do with, let's say, unsecured storage of data in a mobile device, you can show how to test that. You can explain the mitigations, etc. If it's blue team, how to analyze logs, you can explain that. You understand how firewalls work, etc. So yeah, this simply because you create this evidence that you understand the concepts. So that means you cannot just have a write-up that you don't understand, because if you don't explain what you've written, it might appear as a fraud. So that's why you have to incorporate all these various steps when you're doing your write-up. Go in depth, have good documentation, and if someone asks you to explain the concept, you already covered. And finally, sharing of knowledge. So that's also another good side effect, because if you're in a team, some people are junior, some are senior. At the end of it all, if you write the write-up, the junior will be able to learn from the senior person how that thing was supposed to be solved. Because otherwise, then if you do a CTF competition and you don't learn anything from it simply because of the situation you are in, you don't have experience, how else are you going to learn from that CTF? It's by reading other people's write-ups. I did the same quite significantly, because sometimes some challenges are just hard and you don't have the subject knowledge. So what do? You put it aside, hope for the best, and wait for the solutions to come out. Solutions might come from the CTF authors or the other CTF participants who succeeded. So that's another good benefit of CTF write-ups. That's why you see these days even people are changing write-ups into YouTube videos, and solutions are also easy to consume. If you're not someone who likes reading, you like watching videos, you can do the same on CTF demonstration of the solution on a video. Yeah, so those are the benefits. Let's see, anyone with a question up to that point?
Yes. It's me again, Dennis.
Yep.
Yes. So there was the question. Okay, let me just rephrase it quickly. I was looking at your LinkedIn profile, and I can see that some of the things you've mentioned have actually given you badges. Maybe you can share how such badges have helped you, maybe in landing a job or something. And if if these badges you actually paid for them to acquire them. Say for example, the Unix badge at Pentest Lab, the one on your Nini profile. Did you pay for that? And how do you present this to a future employer when you're like looking for a job? Or this one from HacktheBox? How do you leverage this when you're job hunting? Thank you.
Yeah. So these badges are one, some of them are free. So like Pentester Lab, some of those are free. Of course, unfortunately, if you interact with the platform that will give you some badges, there's going to be a limit to how much free stuff you can get, and you end up having to subscribe. So for example, Pentester Lab, there's some free badges you can get, and once you finish the free ones, other badges that are, let's say, strong in skill level, you'll have to pay. And so the thing that is beneficial about these badges, one is some of these platforms are already trusted. So by trusted, it means that for me, I know Pentester Lab. Another person might know Pentester Lab, and I've also been in a situation of being a hiring manager. So if I see Pentester Lab on your profile and the badge, because the badge comes from the platform, it's not a badge that you created yourself. So that means the platform has validated that you completed the specific challenges. So that's one way the badge helps in your sort of job hunting, because the badge from the platform is a proof or a trusted proof that you are able to that you have achieved a certain skill. Because before you complete to get the badge, you end up with a few challenges that you've done, and platform validates and so on. So that's beneficial in that way. Of course, there's a point where it cannot take you further than that, especially if you want some senior positions. But for being a junior entry level kind of situation or role, these badges will work for you. So Tryhackme, HacktheBox, all these badges will work to your advantage on top of the write-ups being there. So if you combine, let's say for example, you combine the badge and you combine the write-up. So like HacktheBox, if you finish a machine, it gives you a badge, and also you can also do the write-up for that machine. So you combine the two, then you solidify your proof that yes, I got the badge. And also number two, this is proof of how I did it, because you know these days when it comes to now things online, you can tell someone to give you the solution, and you get the solution, you take the badge, but you did not go hands-on. So you have not earned the skill if someone did the solution for you. But if you did the solution yourself and you know it at the back of your hand, how it was being done and the reasons why this environment was the way it is, then your badge and your write-up together are solid proof of your evidence of you having the skill. When it comes to now, and then the paid ones, you definitely have to encounter paid ones. So you just have to work with what you have. If you have money to pay, you pay. If you don't have money to pay, just do the free ones until you get to the point where you can pay. It's just the nature of the industry. Just like how we pay for certifications, how we pay for degrees, you have to invest in yourself. Okay. Any other question as we move to the next point? Okay, so let's move on. So tips and tricks on write-ups. Here I'm going to just focus on how you work on the write-ups, and also this is also my last slide. So when you're doing private write-ups, you can use a variety of note-taking apps. One that I started using at the beginning was Jeopardy. So it helps you segregate your notes. We have Obsidian, which is a new sort of note-taking app. I think it just makes your note-taking process much easier, because I think you can link different pieces of information together, so that if you are looking for certain, because sometimes if you have many notes and you're looking for a specific piece of knowledge, it can also become crazy to find it. So I think Obsidian helps. Notion, which is one I use. If you're very low level and don't care about the fanciness of these other tools, you can go Notepad, just have a bunch of text files in a folder, and you're good to go. It's up to you. The only problem is if you have Notepad and you need to search for certain information, how is it going to be easy for you? So you have to also to think about this if you're doing, let's say, private. So like for example, for me, if you ask me my recipe notes, have them somewhere in my cherry tree. If I need to show you a certain solution, I can just go and search for it in the search bar, and I can pinpoint it, because I mean, it's been years since I completed that thing, so I don't have the information at the back of my mind. But because I did the private solution, I can go back and find it for you and give you some information that might be suitable and helpful. The next one is public write-up. So when you're publishing your write-up, how can you start? So we have Medium. So Medium is a good free blogging platform. I know there's blogs also on other technologies. This is also where I started with my blog. You can also do WordPress. So you have the free WordPress, which is on the hosted platform. Or if you have some expenses, or you have some money to spend, you can buy your own hosting and host your own WordPress site. So for example, if you want a .co.ke domain, you can go to one of the local providers and buy a hosting like Safaricom and host your blog there and your write-ups. Another one is HacktheBox and GitHub Pages. So if you've come across my blog, mine is GitHub Pages. So the only thing that I'm paying for there is the domain, because if you look at if you go the route of, let's say, things like WordPress, you need to manage your own infrastructure, you need to do other configurations, and for me, I don't want to pay every year for like a server. Some people are comfortable doing that. For me, I'm not. I don't want the whole hassle of blocking ports and I don't know, managing additional passwords, because it's a whole other additional task to do that. Some people will enjoy it because maybe at heart, they like playing with technology. They want to do the upgrades of WordPress, etc. Everyone is happy with their own thing. For me, I go GitHub pages. You just need a GitHub repository, and you're good to go. What other platforms are there? I think you can do things like, I don't know, Heroku, Netlify. Yeah, I think those are other static page websites, because a blog is static. You don't need anything else other than text, so you don't need the heavy lifting of other platforms. I think that would be pretty much it. Any question before I wrap up? Yeah, go on, Brian.
Yeah, thanks for your presentation. I have a quick one. From your experience, what advice would you, how long would you, okay, what advice would you give a beginner as in to spend on a daily practicing CTFs?
Sorry,
like
to spend on that bit I didn't hear clearly. To spend on
practicing CTFs?
Okay.
As in that knowledge, and is it like a full-time job? Maybe you can do it like 1 hour a day or something like that.
Okay, makes sense. So for a beginner, I would suggest so first foremost, you have to understand your objective. So because you remember I said, so you can play a CTF for fun. So first you have to understand your objective. What is your objective? Is your objective to get a job? Is your objective to learn a certain skill? Because even for us who are already in the industry, we can use a CTF to improve a certain skill set that we want to work on. So first things first is understand the objective, and then spend. I wouldn't recommend every day, because I think there's also another downside of CTF that I didn't mention is sometimes you might find some challenges are a bit convoluted in terms of how they are practical in the real world. So for example, there are some vulnerabilities that are too outdated to even make sense in the real world. So some SQL injection vulnerabilities are so hard to come by, but you might find them in CTFs. They are there in CTFs to help you learn the knowledge. But when you come to real world systems, it might be also another difficult situation to apply that specific knowledge. So my advice is spend some time on CTFs, but not all the time in CTFs, because you might get too comfortable playing a CTF that you may never go into the real world. So it's like someone who plays football. You might find someone is very comfortable in the practice field, but they don't want to go out to the real game. So you have to balance it out and tell yourself, I will spend X amount of time in the practice field, and then also ensure that I go out in the real match. Because if you never also apply your skills in the real world, then you're going to never progress into the real world. Something that we call tutorial limbo, or is it tutorial hell or something. I think even programmers have this problem where you are never building in the real world. You're always doing hello world, hello world, hello world. So that this is now also the other downside of CTFs. If you rely on them too much and never go into the real world, then you might end up getting stuck. And it's also, this getting stuck is going to be a mental thing. So you get stuck mentally. CTF is a comfort zone, the same way in football, the practice field is a comfort zone, because in the comfort zone, if you get scored, it's not going to count. So even in CTF, if you fail a CTF, it's not going to count. But if you go out in the real world and realize that, okay, I am struggling, let's say if you're a pen tester, I'm struggling to find vulnerabilities, then you realize I need to approach this thing in a different way. So maybe do 50-50, balance it in CTF and also try to look for real world applications. So this may be, you do some CTFs, maybe a few months. If you're lucky enough, you could learn an internship. And then once, let's say you learn an internship, you scale down the CTF time and try to do as much as possible in the real world. Yeah, so that's how I would suggest. So let's say don't go over 6 months continuous, or even 3 months continuous CTF if you've not done anything real world. The benefit of us, let's say pen testers or teamers or hackers, in the real world there are a variety of opportunities to try things out. Like we have bug bounty platforms, vulnerability disclosure platforms. So that means that if you learn a skill, let's say you're hacking a web app, you can spend 1 month, 2 months, and then decide, okay, now I've learned something new. Let me go out in the real world and apply this. And then you come back and repeat, rinse and repeat like that, so that you have a good balance of a sense of what the real world looks like, and if whatever you're learning is actually making sense, so that you can realize, am I wasting time on CTFs because I'm not learning anything practical, or the CTF knowledge has helped me to progress? So you have to balance it out. So I would say give yourself like 6 months, maybe at least 4 or 5 hours in a CTF a week. I think those are conservative timelines. So if it's a week or every week, let's just do the simple one. Every weekend, just do one every weekend. And then if you don't have a job, the rest of the week you're just looking for real world applications. So looking for jobs, trying to, if it's hacking, trying to do the online ones, yeah, and so on. So that's my response. I know I've gone too long to the explanation, but that's how I'd advise. Yes, Juma.
Yeah, Mike, thank you. Maybe for write-ups.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of CTF, do they have a format of writing, or you can just like technical writing come up with a format? Do CTF write-ups do have also formats of writing them?
No, CTF write-ups don't have a format of writing them. So for me, I consider a CTF, if you take this, let me go back to my benefits. So if you take this point 1 as your main guidance, then you are going to use that as your format. So how would you personally like to read your notes? And then that is how you decide, because there are some people who like screenshots. Like for me, I like taking screenshots. There are some people who will document without screenshots, which is interesting. But if you personally can read your format and you're happy with it, and in the future, if you come back and you read it and you actually understand and you can digest what is there, then it's up to you to decide how you will format your write-up. So for me, I like having a clear, concise thought process, so that when I go through it, I can remember, oh, at this point I can see myself, what was I thinking, and was it a wrong thinking, was it a right thinking? That's why I try to have my write-ups have a lot of explanations as possible, because I know my future self will come back and appreciate the detail that I put into that information. Yeah, so to answer your question, there's no format, it's up to you. If you want screenshots, you can put them. If you don't like screenshots, you want to do with all text. That's why now we also come into YouTube videos. So some people like the format of YouTube videos. Those are also valid write-ups, just that in video format. So it's up to you. There's no standard at this point, because anyway, these are not, what do you call them? I don't think they are considered like academic standard documents. So it's up to you. do your write-up as you wish. Just understand that if your goal is to have other people read it, share knowledge, then you have to make the quality make sense. Because if you go to point number 2, where you're practicing your documentation skills, that means you want those skills to transfer into the real world. And now in the real world, if I'm doing a pen test report, there's a format. That one is there. So what is the best way to improve in your pen testing documentation skills is to use that format. Put screenshots, which I don't think there's any pen test report that doesn't have screenshots. If you're doing bug bounty, you want step-by-step reproduction of the issue. So supposed to practice as you fight, and fight as you practice. I think there's someone who said those words somewhere. So the way you format your write-up is guided by the goals you want to achieve and the skills, and how do you want to present your work. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it. So now we're at Q&A session. So I think we're coming up to the end of the session, so feel free to ask any question.
Michael, thank you so much for the presentation. Dennis here. I wanted to, maybe you can share your journey, say for example, how you used a pen test that you carried out, or a CTF challenge, and you leverage the same, say, to a prospective client, maybe you're consulting with, so that they can actually give you the job, or to an employer who's actually intent on giving you a job, just to show them that you can actually do the job. Thank you.
Okay, so for me, when I started my career, I didn't really, yes, I was doing the blogs, I was doing the write-ups in this case, but what I did specifically was share them. So I shared them, and once I shared them, my opportunity came when one of those hiring managers saw my write-ups. So also you have to understand that you have to hope that on the end of hiring there's an appreciation for this kind of things, because you might realize that as much as us, let me talk on the industry that I'm in, as pen testers, we talk about hands-on skills. We might go huko kwa HR panel upate wao sasa wanajua tu CH. And now if they're only talking about CH does not do any hands-on. That's a multiple choice exam. I think they just recently released a hands-on version of it, but generally those are focused on multiple choice and so on. So you see now there's a bit of disconnect there. So also when you're doing these things, you have to hope that the hiring manager on the other side, which I think it's something that is getting popular in the industry, especially in cybersecurity. They want guys with those tangible hands-on skills, so that you have to hope that on the other end, the person who is part of the hiring team has an appreciation for the skills showcase and explanation and processes into these things. And so for me, that's how it was. So my initial situation, the hiring manager was someone who appreciates this kind of things, because it also appeals to someone. If they're looking for someone who can do documentation and also technical documentation, then it appeals to them when they see that you can actually write these things in a way that anyone can understand. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And they can follow along with you in the journey of the solution. So that's how I was able to leverage it. So I did some interviews, and also number 2, if you practice CTFs well enough, if the hiring process involves at least a CTF, then you're going to knock it out of the park. I think the CTFs that I've done as part of the interview, I've killed them properly. I think I've been like top 3 of those CTF competitions. So that means if an interview process is doing initial, which is technical, which is typical of what they do. So they'll look at your CV, call you for a technical interview, and then finally they'll call you for a face-to-face. So you see, if you're practicing CTFs for a significant amount of time, if that appears in the interview process, you're going to be confident. Now you're not going to worry because you know you have practiced significantly enough to knock it out of the park. So that's also one of the things that I've experienced. It becomes straightforward. They bring you a CTF. There's none of those challenges is going to give you a headache. It might take a longer time to finish a few hard ones here and there, but it's not going to give you a headache. And if you're a experienced CTF player, then it means if it gives you a headache, then everyone else in the interview is going to struggle as well. So it's still a win-win. So that's my experience in my own path. And usually once you get in the door, then that's enough. Once you have your first job, then now you stop relying on CTF experience. Now you rely on your work experience, because you see the CTF, you're using the CTF experience as a ladder to get a job. So once you get a job, then you stop relying on CTF experience because you now already have a job. So now your clock of real world experience starts counting. So if you do 6 months, then you're good. I mean, internships and entry-level jobs require bare minimum experience, 6 months, 1 year. So you're already good. Yes.
Thank you so much. That is very insightful. Nimekutumia message, I think hapo imekataa kwenda kwa LinkedIn, but hopefully we can connect there, we can engage further.
So sounds good to me.
Thank you.
Okay. So back to Juma to moderate the remainder. So if there are any questions, shoot them out, and if there are none, Juma will take over from here. Thank you so much for having me, and I hope you learned a thing or two. My socials are as shared on the slides. I think I'm still sharing, so you can see my handle down there. So just Google that or search that on any platform online. You should be able to see that. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Michael. Brian, you've got a question. The mic is yours.
Yeah. Sorry, question has come in a little bit late, but I wanted to know, like when this job advertisement, they say the experience, say for example, 2 years, yeah, and you've been doing CTFs, you've been doing maybe a couple of penetration exercises on a VM or something like that on your own, but you haven't been hired. Do you think hiring managers can consider that as experience in quotes? Or it is just a little bit too novice for them?
I would say it's tough, because if it's a role that wants 2 years of experience, that would be tough to work through. So if it's a role that wants 2 years of experience, and maybe you are at 1.5 real world, then you can say I have 6 months of CTF, so that will supplement. But if you have 0 years of experience and only CTF, then it becomes an issue. But if you already have some, let's say I have 1 year, and I say I have another year when I started, I did CTF, so I have a good track record, then that they can work through that one. But if you have 0 and the requirement is 2, then it might become a challenge. So that's why I said, usually you want to use your CTF experience to get your entry-level job. And you see, entry-level job is not going to ask for 2 years. It might ask for degree only. It might ask for certificate. It might ask for enthusiastic or something. And once you get into the role, then now your clock for real-world experience starts counting. So I would say it's a difficult one, but if you end up finding a hiring manager that is open-minded and also by luck, maybe you are the best candidate for the job. Sometimes even with your 0 years of experience, when they interview you, you might end up looking more knowledgeable than other guys who are coming in, which of course is going to be difficult if you have zero. Because if I put you here with zero and I put you next to someone with real world experience, you're not going to make it out of the interview process. Reason being, there are some real world skills that you're never going to get from CTF. One is the corporate environment. So if you're getting into a company, there is that understanding of things like how to speak to managers, meetings, like just some experience that you may not get from a CTF. Things like, so for example, even something as simple as navigating Microsoft Teams. If you've never used Microsoft Teams, so that means then there's no way you're going to beat someone who has real world experience. So that's why I'm saying it's not going to be an easy one to bypass the requirement if you have zero. So I hope that answers the question.
Oh, yes, yes, it did. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining the session tonight. We'll continue the conversation on our WhatsApp group and our Discord server. Then I'll also share the resources and the kind of CTF links on the resources page on our Discord server by the end of tonight, so that we can also get time to check onto the different sites onto where CTF are being practiced. I'll also share with you the link to Michael's blog on what he has written on different CTFs, so that you can also get a look on and learn on what he tries to do on the same. Yes, Dennis?
If I'm not on the Discord, how do I get access to that?
I'll be sharing a feedback email before tonight, so and I'll add that on the email too.
All right, thank you so much.
Welcome. Yes, Jacob, your hand is up. Yeah, if there's no any other question, thank you, Michael, for getting time to share your knowledge with us and your insights with us. And yeah, we have get through that. We've learned a lot onto about CTF and write-ups. You're going to get hands-on on these activities. So to the audience, thank you for joining the space on the session tonight. I'll share everything on Discord, and I'll also share feedback email just before the tonight. On my end, good night. And just a heads up, next month we are also having another session. That one will be on report writing, if I'm not wrong. Just be on mind on our social media handles. You get to know what session is coming up. Thank you everyone for joining the session tonight, and have a blessed evening. Thank you, Michael, for taking your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.